Hi guys, in this short video we're going to be talking about the indigenous plants and animals of Australia, and we will be talking about some of the more famous invasive species in Australia. Alright, Australia, New Zealand, and other Pacific islands have some of the world's most unusual plants and animals. Now if you look at the map below, the area that I just mentioned is the area that is highlighted in red. Now, because of Australia's physical isolation, these plants and animals did not change a whole lot. So, because they didn't have other factors influencing them, they really didn't have to change. Let's take a look at some of the plant species that are found in Australia. Now, Australia is, although very dry, is home to thousands of wildflowers, shrubs, and trees that are native to this region. Some of the more common ones, or the more famous ones, include eucalyptus, acacia, melaleuca, kangaroo paw, and many, many more. Now, the eucalyptus tree is very famous for two reasons. One, it's used as an oil, and two, it's the tree leaf, or the leaves that come from this tree are the only things that koalas can eat. Now let's take a look at some of the native animals. Australia is home to many marsupials, which, as we've talked about before, carry their babies in a pouch. Now, some of the more popular marsupials include the kangaroo, the wallaby, the koala, and even the Tasmanian devil. Now that one is very surprising because it doesn't look like the Tasmanian devil would be big enough to have a pouch for it to carry its young. Now, other animals, and some of these we have discussed before, include the platypus, the echidna, which is this one right here, and it kind of looks like a porcupine. But these two animals are the only mammals that lay eggs. And this region, New Zealand included, is home to very unique birds. The kiwi, which is a small flightless bird right here. The cassowary, which we've kind of looked at before. The emu, the kakapo, and the kookaburra. And this one right here is a kookaburra. Here we have a kakapo, and then here the bird that we've seen before, the cassowary. They also have emus and many, many more. Alright, let's take a little time and talk about some of the invasive species that Australia is fighting. Many non-native species were brought to Australia on purpose. That means when people immigrated to Europe, they brought a specific animal because they thought, you know what, we could use this animal here, or they were using it as pest control to get rid of certain animals. Unfortunately, some animals have now become endangered or extinct because of these invasive species. Now, the problem is that some of these animals reproduce very, very quickly, reproduce so quickly that humans struggle with being able to control them or eliminate them. Now, in Australia alone, 19 small mammal species have become extinct within the last 150 years because humans have brought certain animals. And we're actually going to look at some examples of some of these animals. We'll talk about some of the problems that they cause and some of the solutions to these invasive species. Alright, some examples are the domestic cats, or we'll also call them feral cats. You wouldn't think a common house cat would be a threat, but you'll see why they are. Dingoes, which are kind of like dogs. The fox, the rabbit, the camel, and the feral pig. Alright, first off, let's talk about feral cats. Feral cats, or are also known as wild, have caused the extinction of many animals throughout Australia. Cats, although they may seem cute and cuddly, but they are very predatory by nature, meaning that they still have the instinct to hunt And it is because of their instinct to hunt, they have destroyed Australia's small bird and mammal populations. It has gotten to the point where cats are found throughout most of Australia. Because they can adapt to their environments very, very quickly, it makes them very, very hard to eliminate them. They're also super fast. So some solutions that they've had in the past has been to hunt them. So if you see a cat that is very, very big and you've seen him take out some of the native birds, then they have to hunt them. Another solution was to train dogs, not necessarily to hunt the cats, but to protect specific species. And you can also trap them. But then the other one is, now it's gotten so bad that some places in Australia require you to own a cat license so that you have permission to own one, because these cats can be very destructive to the environment. Alright, next one are dingoes. Now, dingoes have lived in Australia for many years. They were first believed to be brought on boat from Asia about 3,000 years ago. However, these domesticated dogs escaped or were let go, and they eventually became wild dogs. The easiest way I can describe them, they're very similar to a coyote or a coyote. Today, they threaten the natural wildlife and livestock, and that's become a problem. They're kind of seen as pests because not only will they go for small native animals, but they'll also attack livestock like sheep, goats, pigs, and things like that. Now, there have been some solutions. One of the biggest ones was they actually built a fence, kind of trying to keep them contained, keep them out of certain areas. So that's what they call barrier fencing. Another one, more common, is to hunt them down. And then you also have poisoning, which is the most effective, but can be expensive, and it's one of those things where it can be pretty bad for the environment as well. Alright, the next one is the fox. Now this one may be a little surprising, but this animal was first introduced to Australia in 1855 for recreational hunting. So as more and more people started arriving in Australia, they wanted to continue a lot of the activities they did in Europe. And fox hunting was one of those activities. However, over time, just like the cat, it became a predator to a lot of the small birds and mammals. Now, because of this, and they also hurt farms because they're preying on their livestock. So chickens, any small farm animal was not safe due to these foxes. Now, some of the things that they are doing to kind of keep their numbers down, once again, they're hunting them and or poisoning them. And next one is the rabbit. Although this animal looks cute and cuddly, it has actually caused a lot of damage to Australia. It was first brought here in 1857 for food and for people to hunt. However, because rabbits reproduce so quickly, they have actually spread across the country, and they have actually caused damage to native plants and crops because they're always getting into things, they're always eating them. And over time, they have actually destroyed a lot of the few good places that Australia has soil. So one thing they have done to kind of bring their numbers down, some solutions include hunting, barrier fencing, very similar to what they did with the dingo. If you look at the map on the right, you'll see each line represents a different border fence. So this one is the first one, second one, third one, and the fourth one. So you can see that they're really trying to keep them from crossing into some of these places. And the last one is poisoning. Alright, our next one is the camel. This animal was brought to Australia in the 1850s when the British were colonizing Australia. They were brought They were used for transportation, and they were construction pack animals, which meant that they could carry supplies. Over time, they were released into the wild once transportation developed, and now, because they are wild, it has caused a big problem when it comes to soil erosion and the destruction of native plants, because they will eat anything and everything that is in their path, especially if it is green. Alright, and our last one is the feral pig. A feral pig is just simply a wild pig. Now, feral pigs were first introduced in the late 1700s. People brought them to Australia as a form of livestock, and somehow or another they escaped, got free, ran away, however they did it. After that happened, they spread very quickly across Australia. Pigs reproduce at a very quick rate. These guys, a big problem with them is that they destroy everything. They will eat all plants, roots included, and they will tear up the ground to get to roots, which can be very destructive. They have also been known to ruin rivers and swamps. The number one solution for fighting against these animals is to simply hunt them. Now, here's a picture of some of the damage that a pig can do. However, this is in Australia, it is in Texas, but you can kind of see the areas that are patchy, kind of like the areas I'm circling around. Those were caused by pigs. Now, one popular way of hunting pigs is through out of a helicopter. All right, guys. So that's a little bit of information on invasive species, such animals, and some of the native animals and plants of Australia. If you have any questions, let me know. Thank you.